month is definitely all you'll need to do everything that we're doing today. 500 credits is more than enough to create multiple animated characters, which is by far the most expensive in terms of credits to produce from Asset Lab. Cool. So again, today is going to be all about animated characters. Last time you guys learned about 3D models, animated characters, and some images. Animated characters is a very specific feature of Asset Lab. It's important that you start this process by selecting the animated character workflow from Asset Lab, and we'll show the full process a couple of times in this webinar. But first, best practices, just so we can move through these slides and then I can start the live demos. Something I commonly do is start with an image for my animated characters. So for example, a bear. I like to use ChatGPT to create very descriptive prompts that I can pair with the image instead of just giving the image to Asset Lab and saying a cute bear or something like that. I can just throw this image into ChatGPT and say, can you help me write a prompt to generate a 3D model for this image? And it'll create something like this, which will produce a much better 3D model than just saying a cute bear. So that's my first tip when developing animated characters. Next, you want to use multi-view input mode. So there's a few models that will allow you to just use a single image. You typically will get better results if you use a multi-view input mode, although it's important that you make sure the symmetry and proportions are correct before you send it to the 3D model. So kind of like looking at these two images, like can anybody see why the left one came out so bad?
Yeah, bottom left.
Yeah, if you look in the bottom left, this is supposed to be a side angle, and you can see that the arms are pointing straight out where all the other angle, the arms are pointed in front of him where they should be straight out. So I went ahead and generated this model anyways so that you could see what it produced. And of course it looks cursed. Whereas the one on the right, this looks like it looks a little bit suspicious, but I still went ahead and I generated it. I say it's a little bit suspicious because the left and the right view look identical, but it is a very abstract character with really no distinct features, so it still turned out okay. So yeah, check the symmetry is kind of an important thing. Make sure that the arms are positioned where they need to be before sending it to a 3D model. Let's see, our next tip. So this is kind of a comparison on the different 3D model generation models. We have Trellis, which is a great place to start, especially if you're using the free tier and don't want to upgrade to the core $20 a month tier yet. Trellis is only 2 credits to generate a 3D model. Really good for generating models that we saw in the last slide, perhaps something that doesn't have like complex facial features or important textures that need to be applied on the model. So in the previous slide, we were looking at kind of abstract models that didn't have facial features. So those models looked pretty good. And I used Trellis for those ones. You would want to use Hunyuan 3D for higher fidelity models that have more textures, maybe like eyes, nose, mouth, things like that. And then Mini Turbo is a variation of Hunyuan 3D. And we'll dive into these a little bit deeper and give live demos so you can understand them a little bit better. On the next slide, I believe we're comparing Trellis with Hunyuan 3D. So here you can see the geometry looks okay on these models. Again, it's only 2 credits. There's a little bit of distortion and I probably wouldn't use these in my actual game, but this would be really good for prototyping and maybe like getting a first version or iteration of my game out the door. I saw a question, would Meshi AI work as well? So Meshi AI is a part of Asset Lab. Right now, we're generating the 3D model. We haven't quite gotten to the animation and rigging, but Meshi is actually used in Asset Lab. So once we create these 3D models, the next step is using Meshi to rig and animate them. And you don't have to leave Asset Lab to use Meshi. So this is what Trellis looks like. Again, really good for just prototyping, maybe a first version of your model, or just trying Asset Lab for the first time. On the next slide, we have the same models with Hunyuan 3D, which obviously look a bit better, especially the textures in the eyes of the frogs and just the details on the hands and the feet. So this is the model that I typically like to generate with. This one is 5 credits versus the 2 credits of Trellis. Cool. On to the next slide. Another tip is to test across models. So if one generation isn't working well, we have 4 or 5 different models. So you can play around. Definitely, if Trellis isn't working well, if you're not happy with the results, try Hunyuan 3D. And there's a few different variations like the mini turbo and things like that. So definitely recommend switching between the models and maybe even trying the same model more than once. Every generation is unique. You're not going to get the exact same model. And there have been times where my first generation looks um, bad, and then my next one looks a lot better and is actually something that's usable. So using AI is not just a like one click and it's done for you. It is a creative process, and that's what we're talking about today. Is kind of like dealing with those bad results and using them to create something better. Yeah, switching between multi-view and single view helps a lot too. That's so true. So there is actually times where like using a multi-view has produced worse results than using a single view one. So if you're getting bad results with a multi-view, try a single view or maybe start with a single view as it's less credits. And then if you're getting bad results with that, try a multi-view or a different model. Really great call out. So we've talked a lot about credits already, but Trellis is really great for iteration and getting started. Meshi animation is 24 credits, by far the most expensive thing, other than the super high-end 3D model generation. So you really only want to do this once your model looks exactly how you want it to. I wouldn't recommend going through this entire process multiple times for the same character. Definitely make sure that the model is spend more time getting the model how you want it to look before you move on to the animation. And on the upper hand side of things, if you're using Hunyuan and the animation, this can run you 30 to 70 credits. But again, definitely feasible with the core $20 a month subscription. Believe, is that all of the tips we have? Yeah. So next we have I took a screen recording and we're going to do this live as well. But on the next slide, I have a quick video that runs through the process just so we can get a quick overview of the process without waiting for the full generation. Also, the model shown in this video, it's about a minute long, is one that I'm using in the experience today. So you can see I just pasted in a text prompt. First, we're generating a front view image of our animated character. Next, I'm generating a multi-view image, so the left, right, and back side image of that model. And then next, we're moving to the 3D model generation. So you can see there's some different parameters you can tweak here, things like shape detail, um, detail guidance. Um, so here we can see the 3D model, and this is the part where now we're sending that 3D model to be rigged and animated with Meshi. If you already have a 3D model created, can Meshi AI build and connect a rig for me? So yes, in that screen you're seeing here, on the left-hand side, you can see the model preview. I could click that X button and upload my own GLB if I already had my own 3D model. Here you can see the different animations that come with it. Yeah, this is a pretty good one. I like these like abstract ones just because again, Trellis only 2 credits, so cool. So that is just an overview of the full text to rigged animated character. I believe I have a couple more slides before we get into the live demo. So this is a preview of using your animated characters in the scene. We had a community developer make this really fun game. I believe uh, um, they did record a video tutorial on how this was made if you want to dig a little bit deeper into the actual game mechanics and how the character movement was developed. But they also published this as a sample project. So you can just clone the sample project and swap your character out. And that's what we'll be doing today. So on the next slide, we have a few different links. We can throw them in the chat as well. Um, but if you go to the next slide, um, this is all of the links. So if you want to play the game, we'll share these with you guys. The sample project is basically a stripped down version of the game where it just has the character walking around in an empty environment. And then, as Pablo already posted on the in the chat, the guide is kind of a great written tutorial that walks you through code examples and just dives in a lot deeper to how this was actually made. They also recorded like a 5-minute video tutorial, which I definitely recommend checking out as well. So this is what we're going to be doing today. And I'll go ahead and share my screen and we can start to get into it. All right. So I've cloned the sample project that Pablo sent in the chat. And let me just show you really quick what that looks like. It's the first one on our guide section. Um, this is the video we just watched, and this is the sample project that we start with. So this is called Player Movement with Music, and I'll show you what this looks like. So we can use either arrow keys or WASD keys to move around this really simple environment. So I've gone ahead and I've already cloned this sample project. You can do this maybe after the webinar if you want to try it on your own. I've made some changes to the environment. I've made it more eighth wall themed using kind of just assets that we've already used in the past. And I added some balls to the environment so we can simulate the physics as well. So that you can see this is the character that we generated in the video. Um, I already have a few that I generated, and then we're going to add a third kind of wild card to the experience today. Um, and while we're here, I do want to show off how after you generate your asset in Asset Lab, you can continue playing and modifying that 3D model directly in Studio. So if I click on that asset from my assets panel, it'll open up the asset viewer. And over here, I can change things like the color. I can add texture to the model as well. So I'm just going to set him to maybe like everything's got to be purple or pink. So set him to a pink. I can save that. And there you can see how you can continue modifying and updating your animated characters without having to go into Asset Lab again and generating a whole new character. You can pretty easily change things like textures and colors and the materials on it. And then, so this is what the environment looks like. Same as the sample project, although I've obviously added more elements. And then I've also added a new space called Start Screen. And this is kind of a really simple character animation screen. So I have some 2D UI, which is why you see him clipping right here. I'll go ahead and open up the simulator so you can see what the UI looks like. There's a simple loading screen that we'll be publishing in a sample project very soon. Once the simulator initializes, you'll see our loading screen and then some simple character selection UI. So we could definitely take this further. If I had more time, I would add kind of like a color selector here so the user could update the color of the character before starting the game. But again, the purpose of this webinar is really focused on the actual creative process of creating the geometry and creating these characters. Um, but this is the experience that we're going to be adding our third wildcard character to today. Um, cool. So start thinking about like what we want to generate. I would love to take some like suggestions and go through the creative process together. In the meantime, I'd love to show off some animated characters that our team has developed. So in Asset Lab, you can filter uh, by the type. So I'll go come into here and I can filter for animation. And we have a few different workspaces that we've been playing around in. I'll just show these two. Some of the animated characters that we've developed. This one has some really great ones. Um, and I'll start just kind of looking through these and we can see kind of the variety of things that have been created. So this one looks amazing. Um, see, you can view the details and see how much these cost. So this is the model that it started with. The model was, looks like it started with an image. Yeah, so we can see like this one definitely used a different model. Yeah, so what we're looking at here is like we're actually walking back to the beginning when like this was one of the models that was generated. So right here we're kind of working backwards through the creative process. So you can see we didn't just type in a prompt and end with that really amazing animated character. We definitely struggled to get there a little bit. We fought with the AI. You got to teach the AI. AI does not just do this on its own. You really got to work with it. And I think we've reached something else now. Um, I'll show you a few things that I did with Trellis, which is the really cheap one. So this is a really sassy walk. This one does not look great. But this was a 3D model that I created with Trellis. This is what the 3D model generation looked well. The reason why this one didn't rig very well, is because of this like clothing that I've added to it. You can see it was taking that into account for the geometry. You can see that in things like the death animation. It looks like it was actually rigging uh, the the trench coat instead of his actual waist. So clothing can get a little bit tricky. Definitely uh, a focus on the character itself. This one is a really great one, this frog with clogs. So really the sky is the limit. I haven't checked the chat yet.
You have
What's
a lot of very interesting ideas.
okay, okay. Mickey Mouse is a great one. What's Cinder versus Superman? Iron Man? Okay, that could be good. Let's give Iron Man a shot. Okay, so I'm gonna start by opening up Asset Lab. You can access Asset Lab like I did just through the navigation column. You can also access it directly in Studio if that's what you want to do. Either way, you're gonna be looking at the same thing. I'm gonna switch over from my library to the Generate tab, and then start with like let's just see what Iron Man produces just for fun. Um what I would actually do, and I know this probably won't look great, but I'm gonna look up a photo of Iron Man and find one that looks like what we're trying to do here. I'm gonna start with this image. Sometimes you're gonna get a failed to generate. It's okay. If you get any errors or if something fails to generate, um, you don't lose your credits. I'm gonna go ahead and just add the image for this one. I know that if we just type Iron Man, it probably won't know what we're talking about. Yeah, so using ChatGPT create to create better prompts will definitely do that next. While we're waiting on the generation, I'll drop this image into ChatGPT. This is like usually how I like to start. So there's like some specific things that we did to enhance our prompt here. Distinct red and gold armor plating, a circular arc reactor in the center of the chest, a helmeted head. So yeah, this is a good place to start.
Hey Evan, can you switch the colors to purple and silver?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I wonder if we were running into like a copyright issue or something with the failed to generate. Asset Lab is a definitely newer tool, and we are giving free monthly credits out to it. So if you are unable to generate something or like this is, really good feedback for this like failed to generate, we might be running into like some copyright issue or something. We'll definitely be surfacing more information on like what's going on here. But yeah, this is kind of like a live showcase of why Asset Lab might not always do exactly what you want. Right now, we don't exactly know why we're working with a lot of moving pieces. I'm gonna try Alex's suggestion instead of Iron Man. I'm just gonna swap this out with like an action figure. Can you input a hand-drawn image from Procreate? Yeah, you absolutely can. All right, let's see if we can get an action figure instead of specifically saying Iron Man.
I think Aaron has an interesting point as well, where it might be caused because of the photo file. Never mind.
Um, okay, so this looks pretty good. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep moving on. We're gonna do the multi-view. If you wanted to iterate or see a few different versions, you could generate a few more front images, and I'd recommend continuing to generate those front images before you move on to the multi-generation. But just for the sake of time, we'll move on to multi-view. Multi-view will always use GPT image one and it costs 7.5 credits. And I'm just getting the generation out of the way now, but we'll try to generate the 3D model with both the single view input mode and the multi-view input mode and kind of compare the differences. Okay, so like this looks pretty great. So let's send it to our 3D model. Uh, Here is where we can select our different 3D models. So the trellis, of course, only 2 credits. This is what we're going to start with. It's the best place to start for prototyping, just to see the initial output. I'm going to leave the default settings for now. We can always tweak them later. You'll see you can also download the 3D model. So once it's done generating, you can download it and bring it into Blender and do some tweaking, change the materials or textures. Or even you can even just use Asset Lab to generate 3D models for other purposes. Like maybe you're just doing 3D renderings or um, n- want to put it in like Quick Look or something like that, you can download the GLB without having to import it directly in Studio. So here's what we got. Definitely uh, not something I'd put in my experience right away. So we're not going to send this to animation quite yet. We'll try Honeywell 3D first. And it will be 5 credits. Can you tweak the model in Nomad Sculpt? Yeah, George said, of course. You can download this and bring it wherever you can import a GLB file. Has anybody tried Asset Lab yet? And if so, um, what have you generated? So this one looks better, but this is not something I would animate. You can see there's a lot of issues with the arms. So just to see what happens here, I'm gonna like tweak some of these parameters. I'm gonna turn up the guidance and people leave the detail kind of similar to where it was. I'm gonna turn up the guidance. This has to do with the shape and geometry, whereas the detail, um, we're really just looking at the bigger picture here. We want the arms to look okay before we focus in on the details. Yeah, not great for rigging. Complex images like spaces between arms and legs. A hot dog cowboy. I'd love to see that. Yeah, that's a really great call out. This is a bug. This should say left and right. This is just incorrectly labeled. Okay, so you can see this doesn't look suitable for rigging quite yet. Just out of curiosity, I'm gonna bump this up to our 3D Mini. Actually, before we do that, let's try the single view input mode. So instead of using all 4 of these, we can try just using the front view. I'm gonna stick with Honeywell 3D and uh, put the guidance right in between the two. Let's see if we can fix that arm. Oops. So you'll see, so if I'm using the single view input mode, the credits are much higher. Really, I should have tried the single view input mode with trellis because it's 2 credits, whether you use single view or multi-view. So that's what I'll do next, so you can see that. And we can compare the multi-view with the single view trellis output. I'm gonna queue up something else to generate after this as well. So let me take a look. Red panda riding a motorcycle with sunglasses and leather. Love that. It's super specific. Oh, that's one you generated. Okay, so we got a little bit it's like this is an interesting new sort of character. It does keep you on your toes. Yeah, the cape is throwing it. Yeah, so let's try something a little bit more simple. Let's try getting rid of the cape. So I'm gonna go back to the image and I'm gonna use that same text prompt. Oops. But I'm gonna take out the cape. Let's just generate the front view. I didn't mention cape in the prompt specifically, so let's see if we get a different output. Replace the reference image with the one you generated. Yeah, I'm just gonna say, let's see what we get without a reference image. Okay, we're getting some errors. Let's just keep it simple. Robot action figure. Okay, I think this one will treat us better, also for the sake of time. So we're gonna move on to the multi-view here. This also kind of fits with the theme of our existing um, project, where these are all kind of faceless characters. Okay, this looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the 3D model. I do see down here, this will likely produce some unwanted geometry, but let's go ahead and see. I'm gonna use trellis for this one. It's very simple. We don't have a lot of textures that we need to worry about. Alex, I think you've made some rigged models, right? This one looks pretty good.
None that were fully rigged.
None fully rigged yet? Okay.
Transparently, no.
Yeah, I would love for some of you guys to try it out and hear your feedback. As you can see, we have not spent the 24 credits yet because we don't have a model that we're happy enough with to send it. Although this one, I am happy enough to send this to animation. So we're gonna do it. Um, there's no parameters to tweak here. All we're gonna do is hit rig and animate. We're gonna spend our 24 credits and hopefully this turns out good. So the character animation currently only works for bipedal humanoid characters in a T pose. So we it wouldn't really work to do like the panda on a motorcycle, for example. You That's something that would be really great for the 3D model generation, and you could use that somewhere in your experience as something that's static. But for the main characters, you want kind of humanoid characters. But we are exploring more kind of form factors beyond humanoids. But anything can be a humanoid if you imagine hard enough. This definitely takes the longest out of all of the things to generate because it's doing both rigging and it's adding 8 different animations, which we'll take a look through in a second. The groinal arc reactor. Cool. Like this looks pretty good. The ears are a little bit weird, but I'm digging it. This looks great. So you can see again, we can download this asset. I'll get the GLB. And then let's take a look at the animations that we have. So this is the static pose on our character. We have our walk, run, idle, jump, fight, die, zombie walk, and then the best one is the dance. Pretty amazing. We can do the math of how many credits we spent to get here. We probably spent a bit more than 50, but definitely less than 500. So let's go ahead and add this to our project. I created this asset uh, through just like the homepage, so I have to go back into my project in order to import this. Just go ahead and give it a refresh.
Hey Evan, can you quickly show from your workspace how do you get to Asset Lab?
Yeah. So in the left-hand navigation, uh, from your workspace homepage, notably not your My Projects page, you have to expand one of these workspace. And whatever workspace you're expanding, that's where the asset will belong to. You can just click into Asset Lab. This is kind of a standalone um, like AI. Uh, you can also ask, you can also access it through this URL, which I do all the time. It's like your workspace short name / asset lab. So yeah, you can access Asset Lab outside of Studio independently, just like any other kind of AI tool. You don't have to be doing it in your project, although you can. You can see right here, I get into kind of the same workflow. Anyways, here I can see the asset and I can click import into project. Okay, I'll open the asset in project. You see it gets named something pretty interesting. I'm gonna change this to robot. And then I'm gonna add it to my character's asset. So now we have an abstract character that has like a bucket hat that's pink. We have one abstract one that's wearing shoes. I'm gonna go ahead and change the color of this guy to be maybe like blue. This one is really abstract, but that's okay. And then my favorite one, the robot. What color do we want to make the robot? Looks pretty good as gray, but see, it does come with some textures. That's what it looks like without textures. I'm gonna leave the textures on this one. It's good. And so I think we're gonna leave it gray. Okay. I'm gonna drag and drop this robot into my scene. Again, we're in the start screen space. And the way that this works is I just have a bunch of UI. I have my selector screen, which includes this like left and right arrow and a start button. And then I have my three 3D models. I can click this eye icon next to each 3D model to show and hide it. And by default, I'm only going to show the first model, which is this hat guy. Um, and just so you can see, I'll hide the other two. Click on my robot, and then I'm gonna set it to have an idle animation just for the character selection screen. And you can see that happening right away in the character selection screen over here. So just to make it look better, I'm gonna show the colors, even though it's not hooked up quite yet. Cool. So now I did write a custom component, a really simple custom component called selector, uh, which basically just has an event listener on these two buttons, which either cycles to the next character or the previous character. And it's just setting this hidden property or component dynamically at runtime rather than doing it through the UI. The way I've done this is I have an array of characters. I'm gonna add a character 3. Also gonna add it to the schema here. And if you haven't written a custom component before, we do have a guide on this in our documentation, which is a really great place to start, called custom components. But you'll see once I add a new schema property called character 3, I get this new UI field once I select uh, the character here, which is called robot.glb. Now I have a reference to that entity in my custom component, and I can get a reference from the schema and then add it into my array of characters. And then again, all we're doing when you click these left or right buttons is cycling through that array of characters and either showing or hiding it. Go ahead and build this, but it should be ready. So hopefully as we cycle through here, we'll see our third character. And we are running up in an hour. It took us I would say maybe about 30 minutes to get that character ready. We obviously had to fight a bit with Asset Lab. But we've now added our new character to the scene. I didn't fully hook up the functionality of this project, but this is all you need. If you clone that sample project, swap that asset, um, you can use your animated character and just have like a great starting point to start developing a game. You probably want some sort of actual game mechanic here, like kicking these balls somewhere or maybe collecting balloons like the sample project even. But we have about 10 minutes left, I think just in time. Yeah, the fight is what keeps us humans around a little bit longer. And I mean, it's pretty incredible to look at where we were just a year ago, especially for like text to 3D and image to 3D. Asset Lab is really the first place where I have uh, really seen the power of 3D asset generation. Definitely encourage you to use your free 50 credits. And if you want to play around a little bit more, the core subscription is a really great place to start. Definitely more than enough to play around with 3D model generation. And if you're really feeling spicy, animated characters. Uh, yeah,
Cool.
this
Awesome.
recording will definitely be available. I just got a private message about that.
Okay, great. Yes, we will be uploading the recording of this to YouTube. You can find that youtube.com/eighthwall. But with the final 10 minutes, would love to answer any direct questions. So if you have a question, you can type it in the chat or simply raise your hand and we'll call on you one by one. Just emoji reacting.
Just emoji reacting.
Just checking. All right. Going once. Ah, George. George has a question. Do you have any personal preferences for favorite model generator, Evan?
Yeah, mine is Hunyuan 3D. Trellis is like a really great place to start though. And Hunyuan definitely produces like the best in my opinion. You don't have to go for like the top tier. There is one that costs like 48 and 90 credits. The one that costs 5 credits is more than enough. And like in those slides we saw earlier, maybe if you still have them pulled up, Pablo, we could like look at the Trellis versus the Hunyuan 3D. It's really only a 3 credit difference, definitely worth it, and it looks so much better. What is the workflow for designing the audio UX? Yeah, so Trellis versus Hunyuan. Definitely worth 5 credits. 5 credits. It's probably worth more than 5 credits. Like these look really good. And these are like kind of just I didn't spend time iterating on these. Just kind of like one and done to showcase. Yeah, definitely Hunyuan is focused on the texture detail.